All right, guys, welcome to Press X Podcast, episode 43. Thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you so much for waiting patiently for the podcast to start. We have a pretty good show, a lot of interesting topics to talk about. Sir Speaks a Lot, always at the ready, saying you already know. Yes, Sir Speaks a Lot, I do already know. Thank you for the super chat. I just want to, first of all, give a massive thank you to all of you, whether you're here live with me right now, whether you end up watching this later on, or, even to those who may not hear this and just watch my content regularly. Thank you so much for all of the continued support. It really does mean a lot, and it does not go unnoticed. So thank you guys so much. Freeze Vamp, you're asking, what do you mean by big mic drop games? Well, we're going to talk about that. That's going to be probably the topic of the day, and it has to do with what exactly is PlayStation going to be showing going forward, and what is their plan? Connor, you're saying, what's up, man? I hope you're having a good day. Well, what's going on? I'm doing good. My day's going good so far. Thank you for asking, and thank you for the super chat, my friend. Before we get into everything, though, I do want to give a shout out to all of my channel members in either Tier 2 or Tier 3. So I'm going to do that in just a sec. October's very own, you're saying, my mom asked me why I told her I'm in church. The Church of MBG, let's go. By the way, I'm a bug every week until we get the Twisted Metal remake we deserve. Well, thank you so much, man, for finding a way to still check out the podcast even during church. That is greatly appreciated. Thank you for the super chat too, by the way. Yeah, we're gonna have to see if we get a Twisted Metal remake. I don't know. Maybe one day. But Spacebar, you're saying Moore's Law is dead, has said Silent Hill is at least 3 years away. We probably won't hear about it until the end of next year, to be honest. Yeah, that's very interesting. We're definitely going to be talking a little bit about some of the insiders and what they've been saying about some of these PlayStation 5 games, because obviously there was a lot of expectation going into the Game Awards, and Sony didn't really show up at the Game Awards in a very significant way, which I guess is not too surprising based off of past history, but we'll get into that. We'll definitely talk about Silent Hill, but I want to give a special shout out to my channel members who are part of the Play Has No Limits and Play Has No Limits Plus categories. So shout out to Junior Jackson, Tam 1982X, D Luffy, Brandon Chad Perez, Matt Wheatley, Alpha Acer, Brittany Goes Meow, Adrian Pollard, Sane JT, Texas Juggalo 1, and Jeffrey Hicks. Thank you guys so much for going above and beyond, truly, when it comes to supporting me directly here. Obviously, huge shout out to all of my channel members and all of you who show any type of support. But to those of you who are going above and beyond, there is your exclusive shout out. Thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome. Helps me continue to do what I do here on the channel. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown of some of the topics that we're going to be discussing during this episode of the podcast. If you could do me a big favor, hit that like button to help the podcast out. Really helps more than you know. And we have a new member, Tyson Webb 509. Actually, you upgraded your membership to Play Has No Limits. So shout out to you, Tyson Webb 509. You are now part of that exclusive shout out list. Thank you so much, man. Really do appreciate that. So, look forward to your exclusive perk, my friend. But yeah, giving a quick rundown of what we're going to be going over today. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Game Awards, or maybe a lot about the Game Awards. Specifically, we got a new trailer for Returnal, but I want to have a deeper conversation about what the expectations were, which I did help fuel those expectations, obviously. And a lot of people were seemingly let down, and now a lot of people are questioning if some of these games that we've been discussing if they're even real or not. So I want to talk about the big mic drop moments that Sony may have decided to save for 2021. We're going to talk about that. We're going to be talking about when Sony may actually have their next event, when it's most likely, and what exactly we could see at that event. We do have a rumor to go over, so we'll talk about that. We're obviously talking about The Last of Us Part 2, basically cleaning house when it comes to the Game Awards. We'll get a little bit into that. We're going to talk about Microsoft apparently surprising at the Game Awards and showing up in a bigger way than maybe people expected, and they certainly, I think, proved that they had at least one significant thing to show at the event. So we're going to talk about that. I also want to talk a little bit about Elden Ring and the fact that we still haven't seen Elden Ring, but it seems that we may actually see it very soon. And finally, we're going to talk a little bit about Cyberpunk 2077 and the somewhat disastrous launch that this big, massive game has had. So yeah, we're going to get into it, guys. Once again, do me a favor, hit that like button before we get into it. But we're going to start here with the Game Awards. And, what are these big mic drop moments that Sony is apparently going to be, showing off in 2021? Because that's the big question that people are now left with. Are games like Silent Hill real? Are games like Metal Gear Solid Remake real? Are these all just made up by, quote unquote, fake insiders? And so first of all, we do, as I did put out a video about this yesterday, but I definitely want to get deeper into it. These mic drop moments that I'm talking about, these mic drop moments that I'm referring to, honestly, we are talking mainly about the things that we already know exist. And I feel as though it is important to put a emphasis on that and a focus on that, because we need to understand that I don't want to say I'm positive, because I'm not positive, but I think it's something that is safe to assume that if Sony wanted to, if they wanted to have a bigger presence at the Game Awards, they certainly could have. They could have shown more Ratchet and Clank. They could have shown a new trailer for that, more gameplay, given us a release date. They did show more gameplay of Returnal. And I want to make it clear that I don't mean to overshadow Returnal, right? Like, I don't mean to sit here and make it sound like what we saw just was a letdown, because it wasn't. I honestly think Returnal looks great. I think it's looking very promising as the first proper AAA title from a studio such as Housemarque. So I don't want to make it sound like, it's an irrelevant game, or the fact that it's coming out in March. It's not that big of a deal. It is a big deal. People are a little bit, I guess you could say, on the fence about it, simply because it is apparently a $70 title. Returnal, I mean, I won't lie to you, I was a little bit surprised to find out that it was going to be a $70 title, simply because Housemarque isn't known for AAA games, but I do think they have something to prove here. There's a really good chance that Sony, could be setting this game up for failure at a $70 price tag, because there's a lot of people that I think are interested in Returnal, but when they see that $70 price tag, they're going to be like, oh, this is a roguelike, and how AAA can a roguelike really be? I think it comes down to the length of the game, in terms of, I'm not going to say the length of the game, the content that's in the game. I think it's going to come down to the amount of content. And I think a really important part for Returnal, and whether or not it's going to be able to live up to that $70 price tag and that AAA status, is going to come down to the story of the game, because this is apparently the first time that Housemarque is really trying to go all in with an interesting story. I do think the story does sound interesting. I think it has promise, but I do think that they have something to prove here. And so, I don't know who's in charge of pricing that game at $70. I don't know if that's Sony's decision. I don't know if that's Housemarque's decision. But we're going to find out if it ends up failing or not, I guess, based on, how much it's really talked about when it comes out. So we're going to see. I have a feeling that if the $70 price tag doesn't work out, Sony could just immediately drop the price of the game to like $50 or $40 and give it a better chance. We're going to have to see about that. But I just wanted to take a moment here to talk about Returnal, because I do feel a little bit bad making it sound as though, it's not a relevant game at all. I think it looks good. I really do. I'm going to, I'm going to pay $70 for it. I will be sure to let you guys know if I feel as though it was worth that $70 price tag. Just because it's a Sony PlayStation 5 exclusive doesn't mean that I, I'm just going to say it's worth it no matter what. I have to play it. I have to experience it, but I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. I think it has the potential, and I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. Housemarque has proven to be a good developer. We're just going to have to see how they are as a AAA developer. So, yeah, but getting into the games that we were hoping to see revealed during the Game Awards from Sony, I think that the biggest two are either God of War. Like, people were really hoping that Sony was going to show off that long-awaited God of War gameplay reveal for Ragnarok, and we didn't get that. People were hoping that we were going to end up seeing Silent Hill. We didn't get that. I did talk about how at the beginning of the latest Returnal trailer, the one that was shown during the Game Awards, it was pretty interesting that they had a hallway, a corridor that looked very similar to Silent Hill. And it really did make people think for a moment there that, oh man, is this Silent Hill? Because it really was reminiscent of PT. And at first, I thought that, oh, this is 100% a tease from Sony. But apparently, people were letting me know that that hallway scene was actually there in the original trailer of Returnal as well. So it wasn't intentionally done just for the Game Awards to troll or to tease. So I have to admit that I really fell for that one. It certainly made me think of Silent Hill. Primal Plasma, you're saying the protagonist of Returnal is really unique and real. She reminds me of a woman I know. I always feel weird when I see the trailer for this reason. Yeah, I will say that, seeing an older woman as the main protagonist in a AAA game is certainly not the norm. I do think it's unique. I do think it's interesting. And I don't think it matters. I don't think the fact that she is older matters. I don't think the fact that she's a woman matters. I think what's going to matter is, her personality, the type of character she is. I think that that's what's going to matter. And it will be interesting to see, a studio like Housemarque writing their first proper, real, fully fleshed out human protagonist with a personality. It's going to be interesting to see, how it turns out. But yeah, I do agree. She does kind of have this sense to her where it's like, I feel like we've all known someone like her, right? Seems very real. I agree. Nothing too out there. So it's going to be interesting to see, how the story of this game pans out. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. We have Nate the Great. You're saying, I don't see why people are complaining about the price tag. If we go by the previous trends, each time we got a new console, the price went up by $10. Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, a conversation for another time when it comes to just, the issues that people are having with the new pricing of a lot of these games. I'm just going to be honest. I think going forward, all games eventually all AAA games anyway, are going to be priced at $70. I know in other regions, it's priced a lot higher, but guys, that's just the reality of the hobby of gaming. I understand the complaints. I understand why some people are like, man, like, it's just getting more and more expensive. But to be completely honest, gaming has always been and always will be an expensive hobby. And to be honest, this is why, Microsoft is pursuing the angle they are with Game Pass, which is look at how cheap it is to get your foot in the door and get access to these games. So it is understandable why they're doing that, because gaming has always traditionally and will remain an expensive hobby. So I think it's important for people to really determine whether or not they feel as though the price is worth it for any particular game. You see me playing Demon's Souls in the background here. For me, this has 100% been worth the price because, guys, I already have about 40 hours into this game. And that may not sound a lot, but given that I haven't had as much time to play as I would like, I think that that's actually a lot of time. And I still haven't even completed the game. It's a fully fleshed out, content-packed game. I think Demon's Souls has always been looked at as a very content-packed game. So for me, the $70 price tag for a game like Demon's Souls is worth it. It will be interesting when I do pay $70 to play Returnal if I'm left with that same feeling, right? Like, this just comes down to, I think, each person, I think, has to decide for themselves. Like I could have paid, I know that I don't think Cyberpunk 2077 is $70, but I can tell you right now, I would have not felt good paying $60 for that game based off of how many bugs it has. It released in just flat out in an unfinished state. And I would have been pretty upset about that. Regardless of how good the game is, regardless of how much content is in it, I would have been, ticked off at the idea of I'm paying $60 for an unfinished product. Like, no, thank you. That's what early access is for. I'm just being straight up right now. Keegan Moore, you're saying, I think the God of War Ragnarok trailer will be shown in April 5th, months after we saw the teaser. 5 months after we saw the teaser. Yeah, that's interesting. I think that I think it would be strange, to be completely honest. I think it is a little bit strange that we are focused on seeing God of War Ragnarok gameplay before we see proper Horizon Forbidden West gameplay. I think that's just due to the nature of the way the game was revealed. God of War was just a logo and hearing a voiceover from Kratos, which was obviously extremely exciting, but people want to see the game, right? Like they want to see a trailer. It doesn't necessarily have to be a gameplay trailer. They just want to see it in any capacity beyond a logo. So I think that that's why people are a little bit more fixated on the idea of I want to see God of War Ragnarok before I see more Horizon, because right now, as it stands, we've seen more of Horizon than God of War. And the assumption is also that Horizon is going to be coming out before God of War. I think that makes sense. The big question is God of War going to be a PS4 game? For anybody who's listening to this, I'm going to tell you right now, I think there is a 99% chance God of War is going to be a PS4 game as well. I think it's going to be cross-gen. If it does, in fact, hit that 2021 release date, I think it's safe to say it's going to be cross-gen. I know that may disappoint some people. I think that's just the reality. Sony wants to sell as many copies as they can. And so with games that are as big as God of War, games like Returnal, I don't think they have to worry about that going on to sell 10 million copies. Like, I think it's safe to say that whether Returnal launches just on the PS5 or on the PS5 and the PS4, it's probably not going to sell anywhere near 10 million copies. A game like God of War, though, if they don't even have 10 million PS5s on the market, it wouldn't make sense for them to release that on just PS5, because they can easily sell more than 10 million copies with God of War. So they're going to give it the best possible chance they can. But circling back around here, again, I think that we need to understand that Sony is saving some massive, absolutely massive announcements for 2021. I think it's very obvious at this point. It's not that they're getting complacent. It's just that Sony's in a position where they had a successful buildup to the launch of the PS5. Sony was focused on proving that they're not getting complacent by showing a lot of new game reveals for the PS5. They also wanted to make sure that they had games at the launch of the PS5. They successfully did both of these things. They did. They successfully showed a bunch of games that will be coming for the PlayStation 5 over the next year, which is important to anybody who's going to invest in buying a PS5, anybody who can get their hands on a PS5. They also successfully made sure that they had an actual launch lineup. And the launch lineup is great. I'm still enjoying it. I haven't completed the launch lineup games, so I'm not necessarily worried about getting a new game anytime soon, at least not within the next month or two, because I'm still making my way through Demon's Souls, still making my way through Spider-Man Miles Morales. I also want to dive into Spider-Man Remastered a little bit, give that a go. And that's not even mentioning the other titles that we still have to play. Creeping Stage 514, you're saying God of War can't be on PS4 and hit 2021. It can. You're going to see Creeping Stage. I know some people are going to be upset about it. I'm going to play it no matter what. I think it's going to be a great game no matter what. Sony, in my opinion, has kind of proven that they can still deliver great games even if they are cross-gen without holding them back, at least in a significant way. People are going to be, they shouldn't be surprised, but some people are going to be surprised when God of War is going to be a cross-gen game. I would be very surprised if it wasn't. I think I would, support it, obviously, if it wasn't. I think that that's great, because that would tell me that they're doing something in this game that just simply can't be done on PS4. But we have to understand that the sequel to God of War started development on PS4. It's probably going to release on PS4. I think at this point, the games that are just being held for just PlayStation 5, the games that are just PS5 exclusives, I think Sony is purposely not releasing them on PS4. I think Ratchet & Clank is really the only actual outlier in this case. Returnal could be an outlier as well. We just don't know. But I think Ratchet & Clank is really the only game that we've seen so far that's this can only run on PS5 from a game design perspective. But the good news is, these games have been confirmed to be built from the ground up to take advantage of the PS5. The fact of the matter is there's just going to be some games that are built from the ground up for the PS5 that can still run on the PS4. Not every game is going to be, designed in such a way that it can't run on the PS4. That's just not how it's going to be. But, I think that it's likely Sony is saving some, big mic drop moments, guys. Look at the position that Xbox, sorry, just smashed my mic. Look at the position that Xbox is currently in right now. Are they honestly giving Sony a run for their money? They're not. Is anybody right now giving Sony a run for their money? I don't think so. I really don't think so. And I hope that changes. I think that is going to change. I can assure you that Sony is not sitting back right now thinking, wow, Microsoft doesn't have a launch title or a launch lineup. We're selling better than them, all that stuff. I just, Sony is not just sitting back and saying, yeah, we don't have to worry. We don't have to reveal anything. We don't have to announce anything. It's not that. I assure you, it's not that. Because that makes it sound bad. That makes it sound like they don't care, that, if they don't have competition. No, what Sony is doing, they're doing the smart thing. They are not underestimating their competition and their opponent. Sony is aware that Microsoft is eventually going to have some mic drop moments of their own. I mean, I know that's laughable to some people, but that's just the truth. They have Bethesda now. They have other games that are in development. Microsoft is going to have some big announcements for 2021. And so Sony is like, look, we could reveal this now, but I think it's safe to say that Sony was expecting much more from Microsoft at this moment in time. Sony was expecting to have to go head to head with Microsoft at this time, and they're just not. Microsoft just basically did their own thing and didn't really give Sony much competition, honestly. They really didn't in terms of like game releases and, game reveals that are coming out over the next year. But Sony is going to have to make sure that they are on their toes, because when those moments do come next year, Sony is going to have something to counter that in a big way. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I would not expect to see God of War gameplay until we see more gameplay from Halo Infinite. By the way, thank you for that super chat, Rashdan V2. I think it's safe to say that at this point, Sony's like, look, we have Ratchet and Clank, we have Returnal. Both of those games are going to be coming out probably between January and March. We know Returnal's coming out in March. I think Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is coming out before Returnal, so either January or February. I'd be surprised if it didn't, unless it just got delayed or something. But I think the next time we're going to see God of War, the first time I should say we're actually going to see God of War, I'm telling you, this is Sony's plan. They're waiting for Microsoft to show more Halo Infinite. A lot of people are saying that we can't listen to individuals such as Moore's Law is Dead or Red Gaming Tech or any of these other guys. Listen, I understand if that's how you feel. I completely understand. Rashdan V2, you're saying Nintendo ? I'm assuming you mean like, is Nintendo giving competition to Sony? Well, yeah, I mean, Nintendo's always giving competition, but it's a different type of competition that I don't think Sony is really, they don't really have to worry about. And I don't think Nintendo really has to worry about Sony, if that makes sense, if that's what you're getting at with that super chat. But I do understand that, a lot of people are upset because they listen to people like Moore's Law is Dead, and they automatically assume that because we didn't see anything at the Game Awards that, oh, they're liars, that Silent Hill isn't real, Metal Gear Solid Remake isn't real, this is false information. Guys, I understand if you want to feel that way, but first of all, we have to acknowledge something. And I can only speak for myself, and I'm only going to speak for myself. Anytime on this channel that we've ever talked about any rumor, any leak, any inside information, I've always made it clear that it might not be true. It's a 50-50 thing. We cannot sit here and talk about it as if it is. Now, just because I become hopeful and I express my excitement at the thought of, oh my God, could you imagine a Metal Gear Solid remake? I would love to see that show up at the Game Awards. I'm also sure to let you know that I don't think that that's likely. Silent Hill, I think it's a real thing, guys. Like, I know that a lot of people take it as a joke, but guys, I assure you one thing. If Silent Hill wasn't real, considering just how persistent this rumor is, just considering how talked about this rumor is, I assure you that either Sony or more likely Konami themselves would have shut down this rumor, because at this point it's teetering on the edge of bad press, and I think people are just too quick to assume that if somebody says like, what people need to understand is that individuals who actually do get real inside information, they don't have to share it. Like, in fact, it's in their best interest not to share it. They're sharing it because they want people to know that, hey, this is what they heard from a source that they believe to be credible. Now, every time we go through this, there are people who they put all of their stock into it. They put all of their eggs in a single basket. Like, guys, I'm going to be real with you right now. Silent Hill, Metal Gear Solid Remake, SOCOM, Killzone, any of these games that are not announced that we believe may be in development, all of them could be not real. And I would still be perfectly fine because I don't know how anybody could be that upset about the idea of these games not being real, knowing what we know already, seeing the games announced that we know are already announced. But what we have to understand is this. You need to think rationally here. You need to think logically. If we're thinking logically, logic dictates that, well, would Sony reveal every single game that they currently have in development in their development pipeline? No, they would not. That is the dumbest thing any company could do. Even Microsoft didn't do that. At least I don't think they did. The reason you don't do that is because you don't want to show it all at one time. There is absolutely no reason to talk about games that are potentially 2 years away, maybe even 3 years away, if you don't have to. And I need you to pay attention to that part. If you don't have to, maybe Microsoft needs to talk about some of these games that are potentially 2+ years away because they need that right now. Sony doesn't. Sony's development pipeline is looking pretty good. I can tell you this, if Sony is planning to have this many games out next year in 2021 on top of the launch lineup that they already had for the PS5, you better believe that they certainly have a significant amount of games in development that are planned for 2022 and beyond. Okay? There's no need for them to reveal them yet. So I guess what I'm trying to get at here is it's up to you to decide whether you want to believe individuals across the internet that claim to be insiders, people who say that, oh, Silent Hill is real and it's actually in development, it's just not revealed yet. If you want to walk away from that and say, dude, you are nothing but BS and I don't believe that, that's perfectly fine. In fact, it's understandable because you don't want to get your hopes up to be disappointed. But if you're somebody who does believe that and you are holding out hope, there's also nothing wrong with that either, because the truth is, guys, like, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I can assure you that out of everything we've talked about, I'm sure that at least one of them is real. Maybe Silent Hill is the one that's real. Maybe Silent Hill is made up. Maybe Metal Gear Solid Remake is the one that's real. Maybe neither of those are real, and the only one that's actually real is SOCOM. But putting all of that aside, just because we talk about these games and we get excited about the prospect of these games being in development and maybe, coming at some point, can we all at least agree, chat, can we all agree that what Sony has revealed so far is exciting enough alone that we don't really need to know about Silent Hill right now because we know about Horizon Forbidden West and God of War? Like, those are two absolutely massive games that are coming supposedly in 2021. And I don't need to see Silent Hill right now. I don't need to see Metal Gear Solid Remake right now. I don't need to see the next SOCOM right now. What about The Last of Us Factions? To be honest, my bare minimum expectation from Sony at the Game Awards was for them to show something, one thing. And we did get that in Returnal. I wasn't expecting it to be Returnal. To be honest, I was expecting it to be The Last of Us Factions. I do think The Last of Us Factions is something that has the potential to be great. I am frankly a little bit surprised that we have not heard anything more about it at this point. I think people are underestimating just how big The Last of Us multiplayer game is going to be. Yes, that's right. I called it a multiplayer game because believe me when I tell you, if they were just doing a single game mode that they were going to be releasing, that's very similar to the first one, it would be out already by now. Okay, this is a fully fledged game that Naughty Dog is working on. It's a multiplayer game. It's a multiplayer game set in the Last of Us universe. That's just my assumption. I'm not saying that definitively as if somebody talked to me and told me this. That's not what I'm trying to get at. But guys, they made it clear when they talked about it that it's completely separate from The Last of Us Part 2. It's going to be a standalone game. I am very surprised we did not see that revealed at the Game Awards. It tells me that it's a little bit further out than we thought, and it's also bigger than we thought. It also could be the fact that maybe they just thought the timing wasn't right, because God knows the conversation around God knows the conversation around The Last of Us Part 2 is not a healthy one at all. It can be, but, there's a lot of screaming back and forth that happens. And it just turns into a toxic, very toxic conversation, basically turns into a cesspool every time. So maybe that's why Sony hasn't revealed it yet. Maybe they think it's too soon. But, just to kind of get to the point here, guys, I'm not upset personally that Sony didn't show up at the Game Awards in a big way. History dictates that, or tells us, it doesn't dictate, but it tells us that Sony has never really showed up at the Game Awards in a very big way in the past, as far as I'm aware anyway. At this point, just like I said in my video yesterday, Sony is... Okay, so let me tell you this. The Future of Gaming event that Sony held earlier this year, I think it was in June, their first event. Do you know how many views that has on YouTube? Just for the English stream alone, by the way, not counting all of the other streams that are in different languages. Just the English stream alone. Does anybody know how many views? I will tell you, it has over 15 million views, okay? The last time I checked, which was yesterday. When I checked how many views the Game Awards had yesterday, do you know how many views it had total? 4.4 million. I'm sure it's climbed a little bit since then, but compare those two numbers, okay? One event was hosted by Sony and Sony alone, and it was solely focused on PlayStation. The other was, an event that was not hosted by Sony. So I'm just trying to say that it makes a lot of sense why Sony would want to save their bigger announcements for their own events. Sony's events pull in way more viewers than these standalone events that they're not hosting. That's just the truth. So just speaking logically here, if you were in Sony's shoes, would you want to reveal a game like Silent Hill if it was real? Not saying it is real, but if it was, would you want to reveal that at the Game Awards knowing that it's probably going to get less than 5 million views, probably less than 6 million? Or would you think to yourself, I think I'm going to save this for my own event that I know at the bare minimum will probably pull in like 8 to 10 million views, possibly even more if it's a full-fledged event? Come on. The answer's obvious. And that's not a knock on the Game Awards. To be honest, I don't care too much about the Game Awards. I think they're interesting sometimes, but they are what they are. I'm not going to lie. The Game Awards to me oftentimes comes off as something that is more for the critics and these journalists and critics to get together and kind of like pat each other on the back and say, good job, you all did good. And that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I guess I'm just trying to say I don't take them that seriously. That's all I'm trying to say. I take an event that's hosted by Sony much more seriously than the Game Awards simply because it's something I'm much more interested in. Primal Plasma, you're saying, even though the plot of The Last of Us 2 is disappointing, depressing, and divisive, we need The Last of Us 2 to succeed for the future of gaming. We will get amazing games. Well, I think that's a subjective take, Primal Plasma. I think it's up to each individual to determine for themselves whether or not we actually need The Last of Us Part 2. I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit, simply because, we have to talk about The Last of Us 2 winning Game of the Year, of course. I appreciate the super chat, Primal Plasma. We will talk more about that in a little bit. I have to finish up this topic because I do want to end it by letting you know there is a new rumor. And guys, look, I'm going to tell you straight up, I don't even want to call this a rumor because it's just... You're saying, MBG, are you only answering super chats? Dude, at the moment, I'm only acknowledging super chats simply because I'm trying to get through the topics here. I will be, trying to engage more with the chat once we finish up the topics. So just hang tight. Don't worry. I will. I know not everybody can super chat. I will give you guys the time in this podcast. Don't worry. But I want to let you know, you're saying, MBG, that's a lie. The Game Awards got 45 million views last year and 50 million this year. Everyone watches it, hit 2 million concurrent viewers. Yeah, well, keep in mind, the viewership I'm talking about is just YouTube. So you're right. I am technically wrong where the Game Awards in general, like all around, taking into account every single place where you could view them. Yeah, I guess it probably did get way more. I can't speak to what you're saying. You're saying 45 million or 50 million views. I'm not aware. But I can assure you that the same applies to Sony's event as well. That's all I'm trying to say. If you take into account Twitch, if you take into account co-streams, if you take into account all the streams that are done in different languages, you combine the total. I guess all I'm trying to say is that the total amount of views that Sony's event is going to get across the board either at the very least matches the Game Awards or more than likely surpasses it. I could be wrong. I haven't crunched the numbers myself, so I don't want to say anything definitively, but it is my assumption that that is the case. But, this rumor that is coming out, it's coming from Roberto Serrano over on Twitter, and I'm sure that many of you are familiar with him. I am not going to sit here and say that you should believe him. I'm also not going to sit here and berate him because he's free to say what he wants to say, obviously. It is worth noting that he has a hit or miss track record. He has been correct in the past about some Sony events, others he has not. So look, he is putting it out here, and take it for what it is. He's saying that that Sony decided to hold off the reveal of Silent Hill and that their next event is scheduled for sometime in early 2021. I'm going to be real with you guys right now. I feel like I could say that. I could make that statement, and I could, say that's what's going to happen, because it's like, I feel like anybody could kind of put that together. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. I think it's safe to say that, yes, Sony's going to have another event in 2021. I think the real question is, when will it be? What form will it take? Will it be a state of play? Will that state of play have any significant announcements, or will that state of play be focused on maybe more Ratchet & Clank gameplay, more Returnal gameplay? I think that's very likely. Maybe there will be a state of play just for Horizon or Gran Turismo. But when it comes to a full-fledged event, I don't think we're going to see that in early 2021. I could be wrong. Sony has proven that they're willing to do things a little bit differently this time around, and they've been doing things differently year over year. They're experimenting. Savage Draft, thank you so much for the generous super chat, buddy. You're saying Sony is on another level and is very smart on how they do their reveals. Somehow they can make a controller reveal the most epic thing on the planet, let alone when they revealed the PS5. And I think you do bring up a very good point here, Savage Draft. You're pointing out the most important thing that I think we all need to pay attention to, and that is Sony can do it themselves. They don't need to rely on any other company, on any other event, on any other outlet to reveal it for them. They do not. In fact, I'd say Sony is doing these events, these outlets, a courtesy by allowing them to reveal it if they do allow them to do so. Sony is an absolute monster out there, man. Like, they are a colossus. They really are. Like, they do not need anyone or anything. They simply can do it themselves. And I think it makes sense for them to want to do it themselves. Why wouldn't they do it themselves? So I think you bring up a really good point, Savage Giraffe. We look back and we reflect at this, this past year, the things that Sony has revealed, the way they've revealed it. You're right. I think we forget too quickly that they dropped the controller straight up on Twitter, and it blew up the internet. People were all over it. They were like, this is amazing. Do you remember when they dropped the box art or the case, the PlayStation 5 case reveal for Spider-Man Miles Morales? People went nuts. So Sony doesn't need to do anything at any specific time. They can do it when they feel as though it's best. So, the whole rumor about Sony, the only reason I'm mentioning Roberto Serrano is because, guys, I know that a lot of people take him as a joke and they take all of these other supposed insiders as a joke. We do need to acknowledge he was given correct information about the past two Sony events. And I know people are very quick to judge and assume it's all BS, but you have to understand that Sony, given the situation, not just Sony, you're saying Roberto is a fraud. Maybe he is. I'm just saying he was correct about the past two events. So when it comes to events specifically, you're saying Roberto got one right. Look, it's hit or miss, man. Like, I'm just going to put it out here. I don't necessarily listen to anybody at this point when they say anything and I'm going to tell you why, and I want you guys to pay attention to this. Emilio, you're saying this channel is a fraud. Well, you don't have to be here, man. Like, if that's really how you feel. I like to think that the majority of the people who are here, who watch my content, who are hanging out with me in this podcast, they appreciate, what I do here. I don't know if that's, just something that somebody needs to tell you, but you don't have to be here if you think it's fraudulent. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of other channels you can go to, but I appreciate you being here nonetheless. But the most important thing we have to understand, and this is, seriously, I need you guys to understand this as well, because this is just so important. Even Sony doesn't know right now when their next event is going to be. I think that's what people forget. And that goes for a lot of, that goes for any company, any gaming company. Things are in the air more so than ever before. And these companies are kind of adapting on the fly. Do you remember early this year how we kept thinking there's going to be a February event? There's going to be a February event. And then reports came out later that Sony was planning to do an event early in the year. They were, but they had to postpone it significantly because, do you guys remember what was happening back in February and March of this year? The whole world was like not in a good state. So they were like, we have to postpone it. Sony literally delayed their event after announcing it in June. Do you guys remember that as well? They announced their event in June and they literally delayed it by like 4 or 5 days because of world circumstances, of things that were going on in the world. So this is why I'm saying it's not worth, I think, at this point, listening to what anybody has to say about this is when an event is going to be. I think it's worth maybe listening to people who are going to say this is when an event could be. For example, I'm going to say that Sony could host an event in early 2020. They may want to do this because, if this year's anything to go by, it's clear that Sony wanted to do an event early this year, but due to worldly circumstances, they couldn't, So I think with that being said, it's just one of these things where it's like, it could, they could not. Something we do know for sure is that Sony's going to have those mic drop moments in 2021, people. That's the whole point I'm trying to get at here. That's why I spent 50 minutes talking about this, because people are asking, what exactly are those mic drop moments? Well, I can tell you for sure the first God of War Ragnarok gameplay is going to be a mic drop moment. I can tell you for sure that the first Horizon Forbidden West gameplay is going to be a mic drop moment. I can assure you that there are games that Sony has not yet revealed that will most likely be considered mic drop moments. And they are going to save them to play. They're going to save those cards to play them when it makes the most sense. So all in all, I was a little bit let down. I was a little bit let down to see that Sony didn't show up at the Game Awards in a bigger way. I was hoping they would, but I was also still thankful that they showed up at all, because God knows, guys, I just want to end this topic and move on to the next one by reminding everybody of this. I want you to think about all of the PS4 and 5 exclusives that Sony released this year. People failed to realize that Sony had their by far their best year ever when it comes to first party and even second party output, and even third party output when it comes to exclusives. We got Final Fantasy VII Remake, The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, all for PS4. And then at the end of the year, we got Demon's Souls, we got Spider-Man Miles Morales, we got Sackboy, and there's other titles I'm probably forgetting as well that I know we got this year, again, in the second and third party categories. I mean, can we all just agree that Sony earned a break here? You know what I mean? Like, Sony earned it, and I think most people do feel that way. So, yeah, D-Doc is saying, you are a fraud, MBG. You made me believe that there would be big game reveals at the Game Awards, and there wasn't one mention of Knack 3. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I know I hyped Knack 3 up to no end. I can't believe, I couldn't believe it myself, man. I fully expected Mark Cerny to take that stage and reveal Knack 3, obviously game of the upcoming generation, PS5 exclusive. It didn't happen, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I let you down. Thank you for the super chat, though, man. We also have Savage Draft 1. Once again, thank you so much, man. You're saying, just wanted to say Merry Christmas. I'm working on house renovations, and your chats really are awesome to listen to while working away. Thanks, and keep it up. Well, thank you so much, Savage Draft 1. I appreciate the super chats, and it always makes me feel good to know that, there are people out there that are doing their thing, and you're taking the time to listen to me talk about gaming, which is something I love doing. It just makes me feel really good that there are people who really do genuinely appreciate it. And in some way or another, maybe it helps them get through certain things that they're doing. It makes it a little bit easier. That blows my mind a little bit. So thank you guys so much. You guys are so awesome. You show the best support in the world. I know that sounds cheesy and cliche, but you really do. I think we have a great community here. I know that, I can be a little bit, heavy-handed at times, and I know that we can be a little bit aggressive when it comes to the competitive nature of the gaming space. But all in all, I think we're a great community. I think you guys are awesome. So thank you so much, man. But yeah, just to kind of close out this topic and move on to the next one, I think Sony did a fantastic job, absolutely stellar job in 2020 when it comes to their game output. I think that we can all agree that there was a little something for everybody. And I think that they proved this year with their support for the PS4 that they're going to continue to put out some of the biggest games ever. I think they proved with their launch lineup with the PS5 that they are not getting complacent and they're not taking advantage of the momentum and the hype that is surrounding the PS5. And most importantly, I think they proved with the amount of games that they revealed this year for the PS5 that we will be getting in 2021 that we can expect years and years of just games upon games that are going to be releasing for the PS5. So the best is yet to come, guys. Trust me, the best is yet to come from Sony, and they will certainly have some mic drop moments in 2021. Frankly, I hope they come sooner rather than later because I think we all just love the excitement of the next big thing. Even while I'm sitting here still playing through Demon's Souls and Spider-Man and enjoying it, it's always just really fun and really exciting to look at what's the next big thing. And one other thing I do want to mention here too, because we are talking about God of War Ragnarok. Something that did come out is we finally got the big long-awaited update for Halo Infinite. We have no idea when they're going to be showing the next gameplay. It might not be until possibly around E3 of next year. I don't even know if there's going to be an E3. I don't know if Microsoft will be there, but like mid-2021 is maybe when we can see the next proper gameplay reveal for Halo Infinite. Apparently, they are targeting a holiday 2021 release, which I find very interesting because I know that there are a lot of people who doubt that God of War Ragnarok is releasing next year, but I assure you, if God of War does release next year, it's most likely going to be the big holiday 2021 title. So we could very well see a situation where Microsoft is releasing the next big Halo game, Halo Infinite, and it's going to go head-to-head with the God of War sequel. Could you just imagine that? Look, I know I'm a PlayStation fan. I know that a lot of people see me as a PlayStation fanboy, and I know that a lot of people are going to believe that what I'm about to say comes off as a fanboy statement. It is what it is. I'm going to say it anyway. It's just my opinion. I think God of War is going to absolutely crush Halo if that's the case. I think that Halo's saving grace, frankly, will be pretty much every one of Microsoft's games saving grace, which is Game Pass. I don't think Halo Infinite going up against Kratos and God of War Ragnarok, I don't think they have to worry because they have Game Pass. 90% of people are going to probably be interacting with Halo through Game Pass. If there was no Game Pass, I think that Halo would be in big trouble. I really do. I think that they would be in big trouble. I think that they would have to rethink going up against God of War. They are two completely different games as well. We do need to understand that. But holiday 2021 is going to be so important for these consoles because I'm assuming, I think it's safe to assume, you guys let me know if you agree or disagree. I think it's safe to assume that come holiday 2021, I don't think Microsoft and Sony are going to be having a supply constraint issue like they're having right now. I think they're going to have way more consoles ready to go to meet demand. And I think because of that, they're going to want to try to have something much bigger, say come this time next year or November of next year, to be able to sell the abundance, that they're going to have of those consoles. They're going to want to sell all those consoles. The Wonderful Gaming Co., you're saying, thoughts on the Cyberpunk situation? Personally, I will be waiting at least a year. It's a mess. PS, still waiting on my second replacement. The wait is agony. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Remain patient. It will be worth the wait. I do have some things to say about Cyberpunk. I put out a video on it. That video did better than I expected because I don't normally talk about Cyberpunk on the channel, but I thought it was relevant to talk about, given the nature of how it's performing on PS4 specifically. I am going to be talking more about Cyberpunk towards the end of this podcast, so hang in there, stay tuned. That is a dedicated topic I have here. But I got to tell you, just to also let you know, I will be waiting to get Cyberpunk. For those who didn't see that video I put out, I'm certainly waiting, and I'm glad I decided not to buy that game on impulse. I'm glad I waited. But I got to tell you guys, like, I think that next year is going to be absolutely epic, at least for PlayStation 5. I don't know what Microsoft's first party or exclusive output looks like for 2021. I think that's something that's a little weird, is that we have all of these games lined up that are apparently trying to target 2021 anyway for the PlayStation 5. But Microsoft doesn't really, like, the only game I can think of off the top of my head is Halo Infinite. Maybe you guys can let me know in the chat, like, are there any first party or exclusive Xbox games that I'm forgetting about that are targeting 2021? I believe Halo Infinite is the only one. It's the only one I can think of. And Sea of Thieves 3, I don't think that's a real thing, man. Arc 2, yeah, apparently Arc 2 is a Xbox exclusive. The Medium, yeah, the Medium is one. That's one. Flight Simulator, okay. I doubt, no. Perfect Dark's definitely not targeting 2021. Forza, we haven't heard anything about Forza. So there's the Medium, and I don't think Hellblade's targeting 2021 either. I feel like we would have seen more of it by now. Maybe not, though. Maybe not. But we definitely have Halo Infinite. We have the Medium. I think that's about it. But I don't know, man. When it comes to Arc 2, yeah, that was kind of surprising, featuring Vin Diesel. Apparently, that's an Xbox exclusive. I'm sure it's a timed exclusive. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know, man. We'll see. Perfect Dark. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about Perfect Dark as well. So actually, yeah, I'm going to move on to the next topic here, guys, and I'm probably not going to spend too much time on it simply because I don't have too much to say about it. But if you could do me a big favor, we have almost 1,000 people watching. Hit that like button, guys, to help the stream out. It helps more than you know. Let's see if we can get the 300, maybe even 400 likes. Hit that like button. But we're talking about The Last of Us Part 2 winning Game of the Year. It pretty much cleaned house, winning the most amount of awards. Ghost of Tsushima did win Best Art Direction as well as Player's Voice. So, two Sony first-party titles that are doing really well. To be honest, I do not have all that much to say, honestly, about The Last of Us Part 2 winning Game of the Year. All I can say is, well, I didn't like the game, obviously. I would have preferred to see Ghost of Tsushima win. I knew that The Last of Us Part 2 was going to clean house. None of that surprised me. It is what it is. Like, to be honest, guys, like, I really don't have anything more to say about it. I just felt like I had to include it as a topic here because, I'm not trying to actively avoid it. I just said everything I had to say about The Last of Us Part 2. Congratulations to Naughty Dog. Congratulations to the game. I just, at this point, guys, I'm just going to be real with you. I absolutely refuse to even have any conversation about this game anymore because it has been proven that the conversation around this game is so toxic. It's so be happy you don't have to cosplay as Abby MVG. Yeah, right. It's so toxic. People have very, very strong opinions about the game. I'm no different. I have my own opinions about the game. I spent a lot of time giving my strong opinions about the game. But it is what it is. I knew from the time that game, we saw gameplay of it, I knew it was going to win Game of the Year. And so it is what it is. It is what it is. It won Game of the Year. Some people are very happy. Some people are very upset. Frankly, I literally do not care. All I'm going to say is I don't know why anybody would hang on to something like that so hard, like either way. Like, some people are making it sound like, True, what you're saying, are you a part of the Last of Us 2 rigged community? I don't even know what that is. I'm not kidding, Truity. Like, I don't even know what that is. I haven't been paying attention to this. This is where I'm saying, like, this is why I'm not going to talk about it so much or at all, because I literally don't know what's being said. I don't know what's happening. What I know is this, and I'll put it to you as, I'll be as blunt and as straightforward as I can. The Last of Us Part 2 won Game of the Year. That's just what happened. Let's all move on. If you want to clap for it and be happy for it, you can do that. If you want to feel disappointed and let down and you wish it didn't win Game of the Year, you can do that as well. I think, though, it's best we all move on. I do not understand these people who are fighting some kind of battle, either way, basically being Defense Force 101 for the game, or basically allowing this game to ruin their life to the point where they have to take to the internet and go on a crusade. Let's just move on, okay? Like, it's not that big of a deal. If you, the last thing I'll say is, if you let the Game Awards bother you that much, you might need to take a step back. Don't get me wrong. I am passionate about gaming just as much as the next guy, and I had my 2 cents to say on the game. It's time to move on. It won Game of the Year. Ghost of Tsushima won some stuff. Final Fantasy VII won some stuff. Some other games won some stuff. If you believe the Game Awards were rigged, don't watch them anymore. If you thought the Game Awards were amazing, watch them. Who cares? That's all I'm trying to say. Like, do what you want to do, okay? At the end of the day, just try not to let things bother you so much either way, okay? If you want to be happy, be happy. If you aren't happy, try to be happy. That's all it is. That's all it is, guys. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Last of Us 2 won. Ghost of Tsushima took home some stuff. I guess if there's one positive I can take from all of this, it's that Sony won big, man. Whether you love the game or not, the fact that Sony is competing with themselves here at the Game Awards in a massive way. You're talking about The Last of Us Part 2 going up against Ghost of Tsushima, going up against Final Fantasy VII Remake. I mean, damn. Where are you, Xbox? Where are you? Salvazard06, you're saying, only thing I didn't agree with was The Last of Us 2 winning Best Narrative. It was the weakest part of the game, in my opinion. Yeah, I could agree with that. I didn't enjoy the narrative of The Last of Us Part 2 all that much. So I wasn't surprised that it won because the critics seem to have loved the narrative, and the critics are 90% of the vote. So I kind of figured it was going to win that. Trey, I am too. You're saying, I love The Last of Us Part 2. It was a ride unlike any other game, deep, layered, emotional roller coaster with a storytelling element that was different. Yeah, and see, we can all agree to disagree, man. Like, we can all have differences. Like, I don't agree with that. I will admit, like, the game made me feel something, that's for sure. I just think we can all agree to disagree. That's all. There's nothing wrong with that. Creeping Stage 514, you're saying Jacksepticeye has a charity stream live. I think you're trying to say now donate. Yeah, I don't follow Jacksepticeye too closely, but that's cool that he's doing that. I'm happy to see that. Good for him. But yeah, we're going to move on to the next topic here because, again, I don't have all too much to say about it. So the next topic is something that kind of did surprise us at the Game Awards was Microsoft revealing their, quote, quadruple A game, unquote, the studio, the initiative, that's the game that they're working on. They revealed that they are working on a Perfect Dark reboot, and some are really happy about it, while others are feeling pretty disappointed that it's not actually a new IP. And so, I want to ask you guys in the chat, is this the big reveal from the initiative that we were all waiting for? Do you think it's the reveal itself lived up to the expectation that was set? Are you excited for Perfect Dark? How do you feel about Perfect Dark? Kofi or Coffee C, you're saying the fact that The Last of Us 2 is so widely discussed even after all this time shows it's great. Games like Ghost just come and go, no lasting impact. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that you have to give, like, that statement, it needs context, honestly. I do think that we need to understand that the context of why people are talking a lot more about The Last of Us Part 2 than they are Ghost of Tsushima is not because I think a game like Ghost of Tsushima just comes and goes. I think it's just because overall, the majority of people were just happy with Ghost of Tsushima. You know, like, I think it's just hard to find something that sticks out about Ghost of Tsushima that makes it like we have to keep talking about it and bring up why Ghost of Tsushima is bad. You know what I mean? Like, I think we need to understand that, like, here's the reality of the situation. A lot of people like The Last of Us Part 2. A lot of people didn't. It is not one of these games where the general consensus is everybody kind of likes it. I think when we see something where everybody just kind of likes it, it's not that it comes and goes. It's just the conversation is not as intense. That's all. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but Coffee C, you're saying exactly. I haven't finished Ghost, and while it's a great game in its own right, it's nowhere near as compelling. Yeah, I mean, I guess for some people, Ghost of Tsushima isn't as good as The Last of Us Part 2. Some people really do see it like that. I guess it does. Every different strokes for different folks is what I always say. Everybody has their own reason for loving a video game. Everybody has their own reason for not loving a video game. The thing I love most about Ghost of Tsushima over The Last of Us Part 2 is it just comes down to gameplay. It is as simple as that. Like, I thought the Ghost of Tsushima story was good. I do agree. Like, Ghost of Tsushima's story was nothing like over the top or crazy or mind blowing. It really wasn't. It was good. The thing that stood out to me for Ghost of Tsushima was I just enjoyed the gameplay more. That's all. It didn't feel like it dragged out as much. There were certainly parts in both Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us 2 that felt a little bit dragged out, but I just found myself more engaged in the combat of Ghost of Tsushima. I guess just because I like the sword fighting, I just like the combat better. The combat in The Last of Us, it is intense, it's brutal, but it really just made me feel like every combat scenario, there were so many of them, I just started to feel like I'm just taking the exact same approach every time where it's like, let me just run through these guys and kill them, and get this over with to see what happens next in the story. I didn't necessarily feel that way about Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima's combat felt a little bit more, I don't know, just a little bit more engaging to me. That's all. Maybe not as intense, but it just, I don't know. I just liked it, man. It was addicting. I just liked parrying, people and just slicing them up. It just felt so good and getting those finishers in. Jason, you're saying, can we take a moment to appreciate the irony of Microsoft-owned studio making a game addressing the dangers of a giant corporation or giant corporations? Yeah, dude, that is funny. I didn't really think about that. That is very ironic, I have to admit. Thank you for that, buddy. Get Good, you're saying The Last of Us 2 is SJW propaganda straight up. It's a SJW propaganda game. Again, everybody is free to have their own outlook and thoughts on the game. It's a very polarizing game. I think something we can all agree on at the very least, whether you love or hate the game, can we all at least agree on this, just to end this topic and find some common ground? Can we all agree that it's a very polarizing, divisive game? I think we can all agree on that. Epic Monk, Perfect Dark was amazing back in the day. Excited, can't wait. A spy version of the reboot Tomb Raider I'm hoping for. Yeah, that's the thing, man. Is like, it seems like people who are really excited for Perfect Dark are the ones that did play the original, the ones that are familiar with the game. I have to admit, I'm not familiar with the Perfect Dark series even remotely. I know that it's a stealth-like game. I know that Joanna Dark is the name of the protagonist. That's literally all I know. I know that Rare made it as well, apparently. So I don't know what to expect. I will admit, like, I am somebody that's in the camp of I really would have preferred a new IP, but the thing about it is I'm so unfamiliar with Perfect Dark that it may as well be a new IP for me. So I'm certainly willing to give it a chance. I know that there's a lot of talent at the initiative, so I'm interested to see what the game's going to look like. I think that for me, this is going to be one of those games where it's going to live or die based on the gameplay. The trailer looked good, it looked fine, but I don't know the initiative. Nobody knows the initiative. I don't know what they are or are not capable of. I don't know if they're going to be able to deliver. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the gameplay looks like, because the gameplay could look amazing, and I'll be like, wow, like this looks incredible. Shinkei, you're saying about Perfect Dark. I am very excited. that it is a thing because I love Perfect Dark on the N64. On the other hand, this feels like the initiative was forced into making this game instead of making something new. It's hard to say. I mean, we were told that they were going to have complete creative freedom. So, maybe this was just a thing that they all agreed on. Maybe Phil Spencer gave them the option, like, you can make a new IP, or like, to be honest, I'm going to be real right now. I think it's much more likely that not Sony, I don't know why I said Sony, that Microsoft that Phil Spencer probably said, look, we're going to give you an IP to work on, and we want you to prove yourself with an IP, because we have to understand, like, what Microsoft is doing with the initiative. It is a huge risk. You're building a new AAA studio from the ground up. You're spending a lot of money on it. You are not guaranteed a profitable return. So I just think it makes sense that they're like, we need to at least use an IP that is known, that at the very least has some fan base, because the chances of it being more successful, it's just higher. The chances of Perfect Dark being more successful than a brand new IP, people know Perfect Dark. I do think it kind of takes away the excitement factor just a little bit, only because I think a new IP, there's just always something so incredibly exciting about a new IP. Like, it's just fresh, it's brand new. You don't know what it is, and just you're excited to learn what it is, but it's also risky. Trey IM2 saying Ghost Swordplay is bossed. No target lock sucks though. Yeah, some people didn't like that. Some people didn't like no target lock. Yeah, so speaking about Perfect Dark, first of all, I just want to let you know that I think Microsoft did show up in a bigger way than we all expected at the Game Awards. They had more announcements than just Perfect Dark, but to me, Perfect Dark was the one that really stood out. And I do find it interesting. I think they actually played the smart move this time, where rather than hyping up their presence at the Game Awards, they told people to calm down. They told people not to expect much. And so in this case, Microsoft finally did, in my opinion, undersell and over-deliver in this case, which is great because I didn't expect them. So real quick, you're talking about, can we talk about Dead Space? Okay, so that game, Callisto, I forget what it's called. It's being made by Striking Distance Studios. Glenn Schofield is working on it. He was one of the original creators of Dead Space. Apparently, guys, okay, it looks like Dead Space 4. It looks like a spiritual successor to Dead Space, just like Back 4 Blood looks like a spiritual successor. It is a spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead. What people don't understand about Back 4 Blood, just really quick, people think that it's a Left 4 Dead ripoff. It's not. It's literally Left 4 Dead 3. These are the original team. This is the original team that made Left 4 Dead. Just so everybody knows. A lot of people are like, oh, Back 4 Blood just looks like a Left 4 Dead ripoff. Like, no, these are the guys who made Left 4 Dead. This is Left 4 Dead 3. Same thing goes with this. What's the name of the game, guys? Do you have the name here for me? Callisto. I don't have it in front of me. If anybody knows it, please let me know in the chat. But these are the same people, some of the same people who made Dead Space. The most shocking Callisto Protocol. Okay, you want to hear the craziest thing about that game? Apparently, it's set in the PUBG universe. Yeah, let that sink in. That trailer we saw for the Callisto Protocol, apparently that's set in the PUBG universe. Mind blown. Okay, Kapapa, you're saying, I think Sony actually delivered 2020. The PS5, Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us 2, etc. compares with Cyberpunk 2077 mess. It was supposed to take Game of the Year, or Microsoft's Halo. Yeah, dude, I gotta tell you, it seems like Sony really came out on top. It really came out on top. They really came out on top this year, man. I agree with you 100%. Yes, guys, I'm not kidding. Apparently, the Callisto Protocol, because that's what confused me. I remember that the studio, Striking Distance Studios, was being built by... It's under the same umbrella as the company that makes PUBG, and we were told that this was they were tasked with making a single-player PUBG-based game. Now, when you think of single-player PUBG, do you think of basically the next Dead Space? I certainly don't. So I'm very, very surprised about that. It is very random. It's very interesting. We're going to have to see. It looks good, though, man. I'm very excited for it. I noticed that my game is paused right now. You're seeing some Call of Duty Zombies. Once again, every week, I have these moments of gameplay where, I just go idle. Like horror PUBG, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Apparently, it's set in the PUBG universe. That's what I heard. Guys, do me a favor, hit that like button. We're only at 360 likes. Let's see if we can get to 400 likes. I need likes to help the podcast out. That's why I ask for them. They do help more than you know. So hit that like button, guys. Let's get it up to 400 likes. I know we can do it. We have over 900 people here. As the kids say, smash that like button. I don't know. Just hit the like button. But yeah, so I'm excited to see what this game from the initiative is going to be. I really do feel like they have potential for I think, people think that I'm really, really hard on Microsoft to the point where I just secretly hate Xbox and I don't want to see them ever succeed. I don't want them to have any good games. That's not true. I think that there are a lot of games that, or at least a few, that Microsoft has in development that have a lot of potential. I really do feel that way. I feel that there are things that, Microsoft has that have the potential to be great. I think what the initiative is doing with Perfect Dark is one of those. I'm not a Halo fan. I think Halo, I think it's hit or miss with Halo. I think Hellblade 2 is going to be great. I'm excited for the next Forza Horizon. I'm excited for State of Decay. I think there's a lot of potential here, but I do think we can all agree that Microsoft did, in fact, show up to the Game Awards in a bigger way than I think people were expecting. So, it's going to be interesting, guys. I think going into 2021, it's going to be very interesting to see what the dynamic between Sony and Microsoft really turns into, because I think Microsoft, they still have a lot to prove. I think Sony came out on top this year in a very big way. And I think that Perfect Dark, talking about it really quick being episodic, I got to tell you, I really hope that's not the case. Now, I don't think that if Perfect Dark ends up being episodic, that automatically means it's going to be bad. I think I'm just not a fan of episodic games. I know that people are like, oh, but Final Fantasy VII Remake was episodic. Yeah, but I didn't play Final Fantasy VII Remake. I still am not, maybe it'll be a better game for it, the fact that it's episodic, but I'm just a fan of getting full-fledged games. That's all. It's the reason why I just couldn't support Telltale, because I'm just not about this idea of waiting to continue the game. Jeff Grubb said it's not episodic. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. I really hope it's not. I think that would be kind of disappointing. Nikolai, you're saying, can we discuss the new Hogwarts game? I'm not the biggest Harry Potter fan, so it's hard for me to discuss that in depth. I think it looks really, really good. It looks like the Harry Potter game that everybody has always dreamed of. And it's going to be interesting to see how it does, man. I think people want to see more gameplay. That's all I have to say about it. Because again, I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, unfortunately, maybe for some. But thank you so much for the super chat, man. But yeah, I just, I just think that Microsoft showed up in a bigger way than people were expecting, and I'm happy to see that. For once, it seems like they actually, there was no mention. I think a good sign is that there was no specific mention of Perfect Dark potentially being episodic. So, yeah. But anyway, guys, we have two more topics. We're going to move on. This is probably going to be a shorter podcast, to be honest, because it's been a slower week. I think things are going to slow down a little bit. I'm going to obviously be paying close attention to anything that comes up. I'm going to do my best to keep the content flow here on the channel. But I think we can all agree that we're approaching the holidays now, and things are going to slow down. It's very normal. Every December, the gaming industry kind of slows down, and for a little bit just kind of comes to a halt. Everything slows down. So I think that's what's happening now. So this is probably going to be a shorter podcast episode, simply because I don't want to just, I don't want to just keep talking for the sake of talking. I want to make sure there's something of substance to be said here. So we have two more topics we're going to be going over, and then I will be doing a Q&A with the chat at the end. So we'll definitely do that. Epic Monk, you're saying, I think 2022 is when Microsoft will have all the engines firing with the new studio games ready by then. Yeah, I think so too. It is unfortunate that we have to wait that long, but I do think that they have set themselves up in an ideal position. It's just not ideal for the launch of their console, to be completely honest. But I do think that they have more potential than they ever have before, which is great. So I do agree with you. 2022 will probably be a big year for both Sony and Microsoft, but especially Microsoft simply because they're going to need it to be, you know? But moving on to the next topic here, I want to talk about something that I was surprised about when it comes to the Game Awards. Elden Ring apparently not showing up. Not really sure what is up with that. So something everyone was expecting to see during the Game Awards was Elden Ring, and obviously that didn't happen. Fans are really starting to wonder if there's issues behind the scenes with this game since we haven't seen anything of it so far. But industry insider Jeff Grubb has said that From Software has plans to show the game off sooner rather than later, maybe in the next month or two. But he also said that we won't have to wait months upon months upon months before seeing anything from Elder Scrolls. Now, hopefully he's correct. Hopefully he's a reliable source here. Elden Ring is a game that I really wanted to see at the Game Awards, and we didn't. I think Elden Ring is going to be amazing. I'm a huge From Software fan, and especially since I've been playing Demon Souls, you know, I want to see what Elden Ring is going to be, to see. Apparently, it's supposed to be like the next evolution of Dark Souls. So, Darkland 2022, you're saying Sony's response to Perfect Dark would be MGS Remake? I think so. I think it could be. I think we could certainly see a proper response from Sony for Perfect Dark. I don't think Sony needs to worry about having a response right now, because to be completely honest, I think that Sony has shown way more than Microsoft. At least by that, I mean, they've shown more than Microsoft. That's going to be coming out relatively soon. Perfect Dark may not be ready to go until 2022, you know? I'd be shocked if it came sooner than that. But yeah, just talking about Elden Ring for a minute here, guys. Elden Ring is a game that I was very eager to see. I was really convinced that we were going to see more of it at the Game Awards, and a lot of people are very upset that we didn't. But I just kind of wanted to let everybody know about that and let you know that I'm excited, because according to Jeff Grubb, we're going to be hearing about Elden Ring in the next couple of months. We're not going to have to wait, hopefully, until like E3 or beyond that, which is great, because I think Elden Ring is going to be a special game. And I'm just very excited for a game that's been in development this long. Phil Spencer said that he saw it or he's played it or something like that. And he said that it's like, it's like the biggest thing that FromSoft has done so far. And that gets me excited, man. We're talking about the creators of Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro. I'm very excited. So I just wanted to mention that. But to close out the topics for this episode of the podcast, we have to talk a little bit about Cyberpunk 2077. What an absolute disaster. I just read a report apparently that Sony is now issuing refunds for the digital version of the game to anybody who bought it for the PS4 because of just how messy it is. And I'm just so confused about this whole situation, honestly. I'm just confused of how, and I want you to understand that what I'm saying is not against the game. Like, I think Cyberpunk, when I see it running on PC at like its highest fidelity, and there aren't a bunch of bugs and glitches happening, it looks great. It looks great, man. It really does. And, it seems like there's just something really, truly great there. But I'm just genuinely baffled at how this could be allowed to happen, how CD Projekt Red could basically destroy so much goodwill that they've garnered just because they didn't want to delay the game. Either that or because they didn't have enough. I don't know what you want to call it. I don't know if it's foresight, wisdom, or if it's just simply they just didn't want to take the risk of just making it a next-gen only game. Because anybody who's playing it on the PS5 or the Series X right now, you're playing the Xbox One or PS4 version in backwards compatibility mode, and it's significantly better. But guys, if you go watch Digital Foundry break down Cyberpunk 2077 running on the PS4 and Xbox One. Oh my God, dude. Like, it's basically unplayable. It's basically unplayable. And I just have to think to myself, like, how could this happen? This was supposed to be like the biggest game. And I really think that CD Projekt Red hurt their reputation here. I read that apparently their stock dropped like 26% since the release. And we also heard that apparently they're now issuing, what was it? They're issuing bonuses to all of the developers right now, because apparently the bonuses were tied to how well the game performed critically, and that's just kind of a joke in my opinion. Like, I don't know why that would be the case, but it's just unbelievable, man. I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I always had a bad feeling about Cyberpunk 2077, because I just thought to myself, like, they're getting in over their head. Like, you can just tell. Like, people are literally out here acting like this is going to, like, you know, this is our savior. You know, like it's going to, I don't know, it's just going to like change your life. And I'm like, I don't think so, man. And it's sad, because I thought it had so much, it still does have so much potential, but like, let's be honest right now. Okay. Yeah, exactly. People were acting like this is the second coming of Christ. Like, let's be honest right now. Can we just call Cyberpunk 2077 what it really is? It's a game that needs to be in early access right now. You know, this is why I'm not a fan of Bethesda. You know, because Bethesda has they've contributed in setting up this precedent, this expectation where, oh, it's okay for, you know, games to be an absolute buggy mess because it's funny and it adds to the game. And it's like, no, I don't care how funny. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I've laughed at my fair share of bugs and glitches, and they're always, you know, there's times they can always be funny, but I'm sorry, that's bull, man. That's bull. Like, you want to sell a product as a finished product, it better be finished. Okay. Like, I'm just not a fan of this idea that we're basically getting early access games for full price. Like, I thought we were past these days, you know? I know that Rockstar, you know, they're always looked at as like just the kings of like open world, like big, like I mean, look, can we be honest? If we're going to call any game a quadruple A game, can we call like Red Dead Redemption 2 a quadruple A game? I think we can call that a quadruple A game, right? GTA 5. I mean, I know Rockstar has their issues, but damn, at least when they launch their games, like they live up, man. And one of the reasons is because they're not buggy messes. You know, I'm just going to be honest. CD Projekt Red would have been very wise to just say, and you know what? This is what happens too. That is poor management, like having to constantly delay. You know what CD Projekt Red should have done? They should have just said, you know what? We're not giving a release date. We're just going to work on the game, and when it's done, we'll let you know. Like, we'll just let you know when it's ready. That's what they should have done. So that way they wouldn't have to worry about, oh man, like we're not going to be able to make this date. We have to delay it again. I promise you, the reason why Cyberpunk 2077 is out there on the market right now is for one reason and one reason only. It's because they were too afraid to delay it again. They were just too afraid to delay it again because of the backlash they would get. And you know what? I don't care what anybody says. You should have delayed the game. Let people cry. They're going to cry. But you know what? They'll get over it. They'll move on. They'll go play something else. And they'll be much more thankful when the game actually comes out and it's actually playable. You know? I mean, I know that there are some people who love the game right now, but I'm just tired of this, man. I'm just tired. Like, I really thought as an industry, like we were past this where it's like, we're going to release basically a half finished game. And even, you know, even the fact that it plays pretty well on high end PCs, that's great. That it's still a buggy mess. Like, it still needed so much more time in the oven. And now they're going to be like, well, they're going to fix it. They're going to fix it. But do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't care if they're going to fix it. I don't care if the game, they're not getting my money, man. I'm sorry. They're just not. Not now, anyway. You know, when the game is released for PS5, that's probably when I'll get it. Because I'm just tired of this idea that it's like, they should have released this game. If they released this game as early access and they said the game's not finished and there's a lot of bugs, you know, I'd be like, okay, that's fair. That's, you know, that makes sense. Crispy, you're saying delay or a staggered release on PC and next gen first, port to last gen in 2021. Yeah, that would have been smart too. I'm like, here's another thing about the game as well. Before I move on to the chat Q&A, I want to tell you that you can so clearly tell that they suffered from over ambition. Like, they shot for the stars and they missed. And that's the problem is people who were in charge, people who were in charge of the development of Cyberpunk 2077, at some point they want it to go bigger, much bigger, to the point where they failed to realize that, like, well, there is a cost associated to this. Are you willing to pay that price? And they weren't. That's the thing. They weren't willing to pay the price. The price in this case is development's going to take probably a lot longer than you originally thought. So you have to accept that that's something that you're going to have to take into account. But another price that you're probably going to have to pay is these games, like this game is probably not going to run on the last gen consoles. And like, I love the excuse that people are giving where it's like, well, what do you expect from 7-year-old hardware? It's like, you know what I expect? If it can't run on 7-year-old hardware, don't release it on 7-year-old hardware. That's what I expect. That doesn't mean that we have to reduce the ambition of the game. But see, this is where things get murky, because you think about how long Cyberpunk has been in development. You think about how important it is for Cyberpunk to sell well. You think about how many millions of consoles are out there on the market. It would be a financial disaster for them to not release it on PS4 and Xbox One. And this is what happens. They painted themselves in a corner. They needed this game to sell well, and the only way it was going to sell, as well as they needed it to sell, was by releasing it on these last gen consoles. And at some point in time, they decided that they're going to go. They wanted their cake and they wanted to have their cake and eat it too. That's what I'm trying to say. They wanted to get the most amount of profit, the most amount of sales, but they also wanted to have the biggest and best and most ambitious game ever. And I'm sorry, those two things usually don't go hand in hand. There has to be some type of cut. Josh Z, you're saying Final Fantasy VII Remake had to be episodic because the original pacing was a cluttered mess. It took me 3 times as an adult to understand it. Characters carried the original. Yeah, I can't speak to that. I haven't played it, but that makes sense. I think episodic can work for some games, but the thing about Final Fantasy VII Remake is I think we can all agree, like, that's a full game. You know what I mean? So like part 2 is basically another full game. When I think of episodic being done by Microsoft, I don't know why. I just don't see it being a full game if they do episodic. I could be wrong, and they could prove me wrong. D-Doc, you're saying, other than bugs, I heard that the AI of NPCs isn't too good. Cops just spawn behind you in the open world. NPCs don't drive spontaneously. Yeah, like, dude, that's the thing, man, is I look at the gameplay and I see the world and I see what they're going for, and I'm like, my God, this does look like it could be the best game ever. But like, things just don't work right. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not done. It's not done. It's not ready. Addison Box. And dude, I gotta tell you, I've never seen such a bizarre review period where, like, I've listened to some reviews and it's like they're listing just bad thing after bad thing after bad thing after bad thing, and then following it up with, but it's still a great game. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, I'm just so confused right now. Addison Box, you're saying, speaking of quadruple A games, do you think GTA 6 will be revealed soon? If you do think it will be episodic or online only like the rumors say, I think it's more, let me put it to you this way. I think the chances of it actually being online only or episodic are more likely than it actually being revealed soon. I don't think GTA 6 is going to be revealed soon. I think this is one of those games where, it's just, it's a figment of our imagination until it's real. That's what I think. I don't think it's going to be revealed anytime soon. I would love it to be, but I do think there's a pretty good chance it will come in a different form than we were expecting, such as online only or episodic, just something different. Because look at the success of GTA Online. So thank you for the super chats, guys. But getting back to Cyberpunk, I do agree that we need bigger, more ambitious games. We really need that. I want you, a lot of people are saying that, like, this game just shouldn't have been released on last gen, or it should have. It's okay that it's released on last gen consoles because it was developed for last gen consoles. But come on, look at the way it runs on a high end PC. Cyberpunk 2077 gets closest to reaching its full potential when played on a just a monster PC. Okay, like, You're saying CD Projekt Red failed to optimize the game. Yeah, they did. They did fail to optimize it. And I'm just saying, like, it should have been next gen only. They wanted to have their cake and eat it too, and now they're paying the price for that. They're getting a lot of backlash. They're probably losing a lot of sales. They lost my money, for now anyway. And that's what happens. When is my next Demon Souls stream going to be? Honestly, I'm probably not going to be doing another one. I need to see that the streams are successful because they do take up a lot of time and energy, and they do get in the way of my regular content on the channel. The only time I really prefer to stream is when new games come out, and I need to see that they're going to stick. I did my first stream for Demon Souls, and it did incredible. Guys, let me tell you, it did incredible. It blew me away. I was like, oh man, maybe this is going to be the first game. Like, I streamed the entire game, like brand new. But then I did the second stream, and unfortunately, like the interest just wasn't there, and it wasn't nearly as strong, and I couldn't justify doing an entire playthrough of a massive game like Demon Souls and forego my regular content. I just couldn't justify it. So hopefully you understand. But when the day comes when I do see that game where it's like, okay, the interest is there the entire time, I will stream that entire game. True, what you're saying, do you think Cyberpunk could have been the next GTA? I think it could have been, yeah. I think it had the potential. I think that it was there for them, for the taking, and they couldn't, they couldn't make it happen. You're saying, well, people don't want to be spoiled either, MG. Yeah, I understand that. I understand. And so it's a balancing act when it comes to the whole streaming thing. But you're saying Cyberpunk isn't GTA, only Rockstar. Yeah, I don't know, man. GTA is a. I'm not gonna lie. Like, GTA is in a class of its own. Red Dead Redemption 2, it's in a class of its own. I don't think there's any studio that gets even close to matching. Like, specifically looking at Red Dead 2. I mean, could you just imagine what like GTA 6 or Red Dead 3 would be like on next gen only? Could you just imagine that? Like, I don't know, man. We do have to understand Rockstar lost a lot of talent, by the way. Like, they lost a lot of people who are responsible for those games. So I don't know what the next incarnation of GTA or Red Dead looks like. It is what it is. When it comes to Cyberpunk, guys, it's just a damn shame. That's all it is. It's a shame that, a lot of people were very excited for this game, and they assumed that when they go to buy the PS4 Xbox One version, of course, they're not expecting it to look like a high-end or even run like a high-end PC version. But I think at the very least, it's fair to say that they just expect a product that works and a product that's either finished or very, very clearly close to being completely finished, like 99%, especially after all this time. And it does suck that people didn't get that, And I think this has tarnished their reputation a little bit, for not even a little bit. I think it's hurt them a lot. I think CD Projekt Red is humbled big time by this. I think there's always going to be those fans that defend it no matter what. Like, no, Cyberpunk is the greatest thing ever. It's like, I get it. But sometimes we just have to call a spade a spade. They dropped the ball here. They dropped the ball big time. I'm not sure how this game is getting 10 out of 10s. I'm just going to be honest. I just don't get it. Days Gone came out, and I'm not saying Days Gone is a 10 out of 10 game. I want to make that clear. Days Gone is a great game. I do not think it's a 10 out of 10 game. I think it's like an 8 out of 10, an 8.5, maybe even a 9 in some cases when it's really hitting on all its, firing on all cylinders. But I think that it's just crazy to me that if you were to go back and look at a lot of the reviews of Days Gone, and I remember because I covered that game extensively, people ripped that game apart for being like reviewers, that is. And this is why I don't take game critics seriously. This is why I just don't give a shit, frankly, about professional reviews anymore, because they don't matter. It's just a group of people with opinions. That's all it is. And they wear a prestigious badge and they tell themselves that their opinion, holds more weight than others, or at least that's how people act. If they don't tell themselves that, that's how we act. We act like their opinions hold. Like, no, you're just a person. You play a game. You have your own opinion of it. I remember Days Gone came out and it got ripped, rightly so, because apparently that game needed a day one patch and it didn't get it. until day one, and the reviewers had the game before day one, and there was just a ton of bugs, and it got ripped apart got a lot of points docked, because of it. And I just don't understand how like that game gets like a 5 or 6 out of 10, because that's how bad the bugs are. And I get maybe that's not the most original game, and Cyberpunk is looked at as a more original game, a more ambitious game. But come on, like, can we keep the same energy? Who the hell is out here giving Cyberpunk a 10 out of 10 when it's in this current state? And I don't care how ambitious the game is. I don't care how original the game is. It's broken, Like, it's not a 10 out of 10, period. And to give a game a 10 out of 10 because it's like, but it will be great eventually. So now we're giving early access games 10 out of 10s? Come on. Primal Plasma, you're saying, I blame diehard fans who accept anything. You got crap in Cyberpunk 2077 because you let the devs know that you would pay $60 for a buggy, incomplete game. Not only that, you know who else I blame? I blame all the people who act like it's life or death if a game gets delayed again. I don't care if Cyberpunk had to be delayed 10 more times. And this applies to any game. If I find out God of War doesn't come out till 2024 because it had to be delayed like 15 times, I do not care. Just make sure the game is ready. Make sure the game is what it needs to be. I'm not saying give it infinite amount of time, because if that was the case, a game will never come out. But if it needs another year, if it needs another 2 years, just give it the time it needs, because it will be better for it. We can have a scenario where you do get the best of both worlds if you're willing to give it the time it needs and the effort it needs. So I don't know, man. It is what it is. It's disappointing. And, I guess it's just crazy to me, man. It's just crazy that we see a game that really, if you ever wanted to see how much of a joke some, not all, but some of the professional gaming critics actually are, they're giving this game a 10 out of 10. And you know what? To be fair, in the defense of the critics, let me tell you this. I'll tell you this in the defense of the critics. CD Projekt Red pulled a very shady move and said that you can only review this game on a high-end PC. You can't play the console version. I have a feeling that the review scores would look very different if these people who were only able to play it on a high-end PC had to play it on a PS4, a console that over 100 million people own, where a vast majority of people are playing the game. I guarantee you they would not. Yeah, you're saying they're giving the PC version a 10 out of 10 MEG. Yeah, so I do apologize. I don't mean to make it sound like these critics are just saying the game is perfect on console. I do think that this is also the fault of CD Projekt Red being pretty shady with the way I agree, it's still not a 10 out of 10. True, what you're saying, I blame that no crunch people. That's what happens. Well, you know what? Look, I don't think there has to be crunch. Like, I just don't think there does have to be that, because I'm pretty sure CD Projekt Red could remain self-sufficient and sustainable for the next year and a half, even 2 years, if they needed that much more time to make the game. I really do think that. I could be wrong, but I don't think that we need to basically, crunch to no end to get this game out on a specific deadline. I don't think that means we don't work hard. I think what it means is you need to manage the game properly. You need to understand the ambition of the game. You need to have enough foresight to know that the amount of work we have to get done isn't going to happen in the next 6 months. It's just not. Okay. And that's the thing, knowing that CD Projekt Red, they did crunch, and you guys know I'm all about hard work. I'm all about, pushing to be the best, but goddamn, like, how do you crunch how do you go from saying we're not going to crunch to then you crunch for like a year or half a year and the game's still in this state? Yeah, no, that at that point is poor management. Okay. That is poor management. Piss poor management. What they should have done is realize this game needs, at the bare minimum, like another year, maybe another year and a half. So that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying, man, it's just like, there's just so many things wrong with this whole situation. And, they didn't crunch MBG, go read the Polish law. Well, okay, I don't want to speak out of term. I will admit I'm a little bit ignorant to the situation. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they literally couldn't crunch. I don't know. All I'm trying to say, look, putting crunch or no crunch, putting all that aside, what I'm going to say is the game needed more time. That's all it is. The game needed more time. And frankly, I think CD Projekt Red would have been very wise to just say, you know what? We're going to make the internet lose its mind by delaying this game again. And especially if we have to delay it for another year. But that's what they should have done. That would have, in my opinion, saved their game. It would have saved their reputation and the reputation of their game. I don't know. I'm just one man with an opinion, you know. I think it's just very depressing to see that, the game, like, you know, somebody asked me, like, do you think it could have been the next GTA? I think CD Projekt Red could be looked at as the next Rockstar. They could have with this game. But the difference between CD Projekt Red and Rockstar is Rockstar doesn't release a game in this state. Rockstar releases a game when it's done. And it's not to say that they don't patch their games, but the patches that they release for their games are not to fix game-breaking bugs. The patches they release for their games are just for some tweaks, a little bit, you know, extra optimization here and there that probably doesn't even need it, but they're going to do it anyway. Rockstar releases their games when they're ready to go. And that's what CD Projekt Red didn't do. And I think that is what separates the two. Lyro, you're saying, I know Jeff is a cryptic troll. I heard him say supernatural horror franchises remade coming to PS5, and the Returnal PT seen as a giant FU troll to Silent Hill fans. Rigged. Dude, I gotta admit, man, like there was a lot going on in that situation that that just didn't it really made people think like, oh my God, it's Silent Hill. And it's just like, it did feel like a tease or a troll. It really did. But somebody says, never make promises you can't keep or something like that. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I understand. Like sometimes ambition gets the best of us. And I get that. You know, you get ambitious. You bite off more than you can chew. Yeah, maybe you're right. You're saying MBG, you must have forgot how bad GTA 5 ran on the PS3 and 360. You may be right, man. It's been quite some time. I guess I'm just thinking to Red Dead. I wasn't even thinking about GTA 5. I mean, look, will Cyberpunk be great? It will be. In time, it will be. You know, they're going to do what they have to do to fix the game. Sony's offering refunds, which is good. But we just have to accept that, the game just needed some more time. Even if it could just get 6 more months, I think that would have been much better for it. But they didn't want to delay it. They were too afraid. And, maybe it would be a slightly different game if it was next gen only. But it will get better. It will get to where it needs to go. But there's no doubt, in my opinion, that CD Projekt Red definitely harmed their reputation. How much they harmed it, I don't know. Maybe not that much. I'm sure it's, usually things these days are always overblown. But, it is what it is. But anyway, that does it for all the topics I have, guys. Yeah, you're saying Sony never offer refunds. It must be pretty bad. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. At least on the PS4, it's really, really bad. So, yeah, that should tell you what you need to know about the game. They're offering refunds. Let me see. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to do a Q&A with the chat before we end the podcast. Guys, do me a favor, hit that like button. We're almost at 500 likes. I know we can do better. I know we can get more. Let's see if we can get to 600. Really helps the podcast out. So hit that like button, guys. And I'm going to start with the chat Q&A in just a moment. Hold your questions. I have to turn slow mode on because I won't be able to keep up if I don't do that. So, all right, let's do a Q&A with the chat. I'm going to interact with the chat, talk to you guys for a little bit, ask me any questions you have or whatever you want to talk about. Feel free to do so. All eyes are on the chat right now. Let me see. Is it really worth it to do these awful ports to last gen consoles? It's probably, I don't know. I'm sure from a sales perspective, from a monetary perspective, yeah, it probably is, regardless of how bad it is. What are all the possible upcoming PlayStation games? I don't know, but there are a lot. I cannot list them off right now. That's just too many. I want to see SOCOM, though. I want to see what the second team is. The second team that's working at Guerrilla. The second AAA Guerrilla Games
team. I want to know what they're working on.
EA is offering free DLC for Star Wars Squadrons while CD Projekt Red releases a broken mess of game. What a year. Yeah, it's strange year, man. Strange year. True Witty, you're saying it's not bad for me. Only one bug with Jackie. Well, good. You're an outlier, True Witty. That's good though. I'm glad to hear that. RNBG, it's been great. See you next stream, man. Yeah, thank you so much for being here, man. I'll catch you later. What are your thoughts on Crimson Desert? I thought it looked great. I thought that trailer was crazy. Like, it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm like, oh my God, like this game looks crazy. I think it looks good. What game are you most hyped for? Returnal, Gran Turismo 7, or Ratchet and Clank? I think I'm gonna try Gran Turismo. I've just never been a big car game guy. I've never played Gran Turismo. So it's really between Returnal and Ratchet and Clank. I think the edge goes to Ratchet and Clank, but I don't know. I feel like it's tied between the two. The fact that Returnal's AAA gets me more excited because I feel like it's going to surprise me. Let me see. MBG and all. Elden Ring was meant to be shown this year, January, at the Taipei Game Show. So it could very well be at the Taipei Game Show on the 28th or 29th. January 2021. Yeah, that would make sense. I hope so. I want to see Elden Ring, man. I really do. How many PS5s do you have to sell in order for God of War Ragnarok to be a PS5 exclusive only? I think Sony would need to sell 15 million minimum for them to consider making it PS5 only. Because I'm telling you, God of War Ragnarok, it's probably going to break a record. It's probably going to beat The Last of Us 2. And beat their record. I think The Last of Us 2, I think it's safe to say they hold the record. I know they hold the record for like sales in the first 3 days. It wouldn't surprise me if The Last of Us Part 2 holds the all-time record in general. But I think God of War is going to break a record. So they kind of have to release it on PS4. That's what I think people don't realize. I think it also depends on how many PS5s they can sell. Keep in mind, Sony makes the majority of their money on software sales. You know? So people need to understand that's a big reason why they're going to continue to release games on PS4, whether we like it or not. Will you and your wife play It Takes Two? Probably. It looks perfect for that, right? It looks like a perfect couple game. Saying I hate any company these months till now related to the games. They kept my expectations very low. Do you think CD Projekt Red should have had two different teams working on a PS4 base and a PS5? I mean, ideally, I think that would have been great, but I just don't think that is a realistic thing for them to be able to do. Honestly, I don't know. I don't think they could have done that even if they wanted to. What do you think about Temtem on PS5? Have you ever heard of it? I have not heard of it. I don't know what that is, so I can't tell you. What are your thoughts on the Evil Dead game? I think it looks good. I was looking at that. I'm like, this looks better than I expected. What's the most depressing story, game, film, novel that you have considered a worthwhile experience? Your Last of Us 2 review suggests you're closing yourself off to a lot of great, grueling art. No, the most depressing thing I think I've ever... one of the most depressing is The Road. That was a very depressing book and movie. The Road is the one that stands out to me. I'm no stranger to, pain in that way, or depressing or grueling. I don't purposely avoid it. I did play The Last of Us Part 2. I just expected things to go a little bit differently for the characters in that game. How do you feel about MGS becoming open world but still being kept in its original structure? I don't know. I don't see how that could work if it really is coming. I don't think that could work, man. I don't think it could. I mean, that would be like a complete remake to the point where it's like, I don't even know what's going on. I'd be open to it. I'd give it a try. I'd have to tell you what I think after I try it. Final Fantasy 16 being exclusive to PS5 is a big deal. This is killing Xbox. Yeah, that's another thing people are forgetting, man. That was another game that was announced. I don't know if it's targeting 2021, but Final Fantasy 16 exclusive to PS5. Timed, maybe not. Project Athia as well. Are you a fan of the Mass Effect franchise? I am not. I've never played the Mass Effect franchise. I'm just not a fan. Where are the tools? People acting like MBG knows everything about PlayStation, asking if there's going to be a new Uncharted. I don't know everything. I know far from everything. I do know some stuff, but far from everything. And by some stuff, I do not mean any insider stuff either. Could you outbench Abby? I have no idea. I don't know what Abby benches. When will we see the cosplay of Abby? You're never going to see it because The Last of Us won Game of the Year. When do you think SOCOM is coming out? I don't know. I think if SOCOM is real, it will most likely come out sometime in 2021. MBG, do you believe that Sony is going to have a really good start out of the gate, but Xbox is going to have so many exclusives lined up at the end of the gen? It's almost like they didn't with PS4. Well, I'm not sure about the second part of your question, but I do believe that Sony is going to have a very good start out of the gate. I think it's proven that they've already do have a good start out of the gate. So yeah, what do I think about Vin Diesel and Ark? I think it's very unexpected and very strange. I didn't, I did not expect that. I was, it reminded me of Horizon when we were watching it, and I didn't expect it to be Ark. So I was like, wait, is this like Vin Diesel Horizon? What's going on here? So it was very unexpected, but yeah, it looks like the questions are stopping now, guys. While we have saying MBG, I think enhanced consoles, the Xbox One X and PS4 Pro are very capable of running Cyberpunk. Look at The Last of Us Part 2 on Pro. CD Projekt Red is just incompetent in optimization and dev management. I mean, dude, I think that like if they had taken more time to properly optimize it, the time they needed, it would be a different story. Saying MBGI asked Moore's Law dead, and he said that SOCOM is real and they're working on it. Go watch this podcast. I don't know. I must have missed that, but I believe it. I believe it simply because it adds up. It adds up perfectly. Guerrilla Games, second AAA team, hired some prominent developers that worked on Rainbow Six, modern military shooter, tactical shooter. So I believe it. I would love to see SOCOM return, man. Have you heard of the makers of a Hitman are making a new James Bond game? As a huge James Bond fan, this is amazing news and hopefully will introduce those films to a whole new generation. I did hear that. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with that license, man. It's going to be very interesting. Let me see here. The PS5 will outsell the Series X just like the PS2 did to the Xbox, the PS3 did to the 360, and PS4 did to the Xbox One. I mean, to answer the question, I think the PS5 is certainly going to outsell the Series X. When is your next gameplay? We love your work. I'm not sure. Honestly, the next gameplay or live gameplay I'm probably going to do will be when another PlayStation 5 exclusive drops. Do you think CD Projekt Red felt beholden to Microsoft to release Cyberpunk 2077 after the Xbox One X skinned console and paid promo? I do not think that is what is making them feel obligated to sell it on the base consoles. I think it's the fact that they need those sales because to justify how long the game has been in development. Do you think that Respawn will take full advantage of the DualSense haptic feedback for Apex Legends? It's possible they could add that. I think it would be wise of them to do that. If you like Pokemon, you should give Temtem a try on PS5. Oh yeah, that's that game, right? It's supposed to be just like Pokemon. Do you think Game Pass is going to poison the industry? I think it has the potential, certainly, to poison the industry. Can't say for sure, but will you be buying Rainbow Six Quarantine? Probably. How much do you think special limited editions will cost now that we have $70 games? I don't know. Maybe the same price, maybe $10 more. Kofi C, you're saying need more games like SSX, NBA Street, Burnout, etc. Yeah, I agree. What studio would you want Sony to acquire in the future? Kojima Productions, Blue Point Games, Housemarque. Do I like Lord of the Rings? I do. Kenna Bridge of Spirits release window. Will you play it when it releases? Yeah, I probably will play it. I think I heard, the last I heard is it's releasing in like March or something. I don't know if that's true though. What are my expectations for Horizon Forbidden West? My expectations are it's going to be amazing. Anyway, guys, that's going to have to do it. I'll answer one more question. How's your DualSense? Have you heard anything about DualSense problems? I have like 3 DualSense controllers. They're all holding up perfectly fine. I haven't had any issues. So yeah, I have no complaints. It's holding up good. I haven't heard any serious issues about it. Maybe some stick drift for some, but That's about it. Will I review Returnal? Yes, I probably will. I want to. I'm trying to review Demon Souls. I haven't completed it yet because I'm getting my ass kicked. So I wanted to do a review for that. I probably will. I gave my impressions on it, but anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. Keeping it a little bit shorter than normal. Again, things are slowing down, so I'm going to do my best to keep the content flowing on the channel. Hopefully, you guys will continue to show your support. And I think that this year's ending on a really high note for PlayStation, and I think it's only going to get significantly better. I'm very excited to, see what Sony has in store for us going into next year. I think it's going to be amazing, and I hope next year gets off to a fast start when it comes to games, things to talk about. I think 2021 is going to be a massive year for both Sony and Microsoft. Right now, they're having a supply issue. Once the supply issue is no longer an issue and they just have consoles ready to sell, I think we're going to see some really, really incredibly exciting stuff. So thank you guys so much. Hit that like button on your way out. Let's see if we can get up to 600 likes. A big thank you to all of my channel members. Really appreciate your support. Helps me a lot. Thank you for anybody who donated a super chat. But yeah, that's going to do it for episode 43 of Press X Podcast. So until next time, guys, take care.